So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this morning, I'm delighted to have with us Lucy Robinson, who's CEO and founder at LCR International. So, Lucy, thank you for spending a bit of time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, your business, what you do, how you help people, that'd be brilliant.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. No, thank you so much for having me here. So I set up LCR International about 5.5 years ago, just pre-COVID. So we are a executive search firm. We're located in the UK, but we do have a global team. And we specialize in assisting global fresh produce growers, exporters, and related businesses with their senior hires. So we work with companies across 6 continents, managing senior complex hires.
Wow, that's really fascinating and quite you're global with the niche. It's really interesting, isn't it? It's very clearly very niche. So what sort of what makes a great client for you, would you say?
Yeah, so our clients are typically, and I didn't really know this when I set up the company, but we've really, as time has gone on, found what is our essentially our ideal client. And typically they are global themselves. So they will have multiple locations. They might have a head office in the US, but farms in Peru and South Africa and even China.
Brilliant,
And they'll come to us for all of their, it could be mid-level complex and niche hires, or it could be C-suite executive level.
yep,
So yeah, anything that they can't um that if they can't fill basically if they can't make a hire through your traditional methods, advertising, local recruiters, like that's essentially where we come in.
brilliant, brilliant, really fascinating. I'm looking forward to learning more about this. So maybe if we start, if you could talk a little bit about your background, how you got into business, and why this particular one for you, Lucy.
Yeah, so my background, I've been in recruitment, executive search for over 15 years now. So in the early days, I was very much focusing on more your local recruitment, admin support. I then spent some time I did the whole travel backpacking thing,
Brilliant,
early 20s.
brilliant,
And yeah, spent some time in Australia. So I was in Melbourne for 3 years. Again, similar sort of executive sort of PAs, admin for many sort of professional industries, legal, corporate banking, etc. Did some more travels. This is kind of where my love for travel came in.
brilliant.
So I spent quite a long time traveling by myself as well as with people. I've done all of Asia, well, Southeast Asia, Australia, and then South America. And then when I came back to the UK, I landed in food manufacturing essentially, so working within the food industry, but purely across the UK.
Yep,
And this was across all categories, so it was anything from bakery to confectionery to meat and fresh produce included.
yep,
Um, I really wanted to take that international for many reasons. I mean, the first one is that the UK market is quite saturated for recruiters.
yep.
I love other cultures, new cultures, travel, and just really had the desire to work internationally and not just focus on the UK. Also, the fresh produce industry is really in sort of more of a world of its own. It's completely different to the other categories. It's agriculture, and people who are in the industry tend to stay in the industry. They don't cross over to other sectors typically.
Right.
So, and I also noticed there was a gap in the market for fresh produce businesses, so for one point of contact that could help them with all of their global
Yep.
hires. So essentially, yeah, that's where LCR, or why LCR was established to help global companies. Yeah.
Amazing. And I think you mentioned that when you founded the business, you were a young mother at the time.
Yeah, so I had so my son he would have been three and a half at the
Goodness.
time. So yeah, so quite young. It was December 2019 when I officially set up the business. Sort of got things started early 2020. Obviously had the idea of, traveling, seeing different places, all of that, and then obviously COVID hit, so that didn't
Yep.
happen straight away. But quite quickly decided to have a second child. I didn't really want to wait. Jacob, who's my oldest, he was sort of 3.5, and I didn't want to wait to have another child. I also didn't want to wait to set up a business.
Yep.
So, why not just do them both at the same time? Which some people might think I'm a bit crazy, but I had great support from my partner, from family. So yeah, was able to go ahead and do both at the same time essentially. So spent much of the first year pregnant as well. So juggling all of that alongside setting up a business. And essentially went from there.
I mean, it is fascinating. I mean, starting a business is a challenge. Having your family is a challenge. Put those two things together, it must have been quite an interesting time.
Yeah, and it was, it did mean like I think I was working random hours. I remember, my mum being downstairs with my baby, so I'm working and I'd pop downstairs to feed him every so often. Working. I wasn't working, I was working 2 days a week, I think for the first 6 months or
Yep.
whatever. So sort of juggling that, working evenings when he was in bed, working, weekends when I could. So it was really sort of, I suppose that's the flexibility of having your own business. You can just work whatever hours you need. So I just made it fit around family life. So actually,
Brilliant.
it was tough. I'm not going to say it wasn't, but it also worked well.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Well done. And whether it's from that period or since then, looking back, what are some of the biggest issues and challenges you've had to overcome?
I mean, I suppose like many businesses, COVID was, a big challenge. We were lucky in that because we're fresh produce, people are always going to buy fruits and vegetables, so
Yes.
that will never drop off.
Yes.
However,
Great.
we stopped going to restaurants, as you know, so many of our clients that were purely servicing the food sector, food service sector,
Yep.
we lost a ton
Yes.
of vacancies
Of
overnight.
course.
For that reason. However, on the flip side, the clients that were servicing the retailers,
Yep.
their volumes, even tripled.
Yep.
So it was still tough because we had things drop off. We had to sort of pivot. I think we're talking about pivoting where we say
Yes.
oh, we have to pivot. But it was a challenging time, but also I was fortunate that I was already working from home. I was already working flexible hours, so I could sort of continue running the business in that sense. But yeah, over time, I mean, there's been lots of challenges along the way. The business has grown significantly. I've had to adapt, learning about different cultures, about not just working with the cultures essentially, but how companies run within those countries. So it
Yep.
could be things like, the benefits offered, the legalities. There's lots that we've had to learn along the way.
Yep.
I wouldn't say there've been major challenges, but we've definitely had some hiccups of things that maybe we didn't know that we've had to sort of learn. But yeah, always managed to sort of overcome those. So yeah, and then just the general challenges of running a growing business. The business has grown quite quickly, but keeping systems and processes sort of up to speed whilst the business grows is quite
Yes.
challenging.
Yes.
Um,
It,
yeah.
I mean, that's something we see a lot of is, part of what we help people with is systemizing their business, but
Mm.
systems are typically only remain fit for purpose for businesses at different sizes, and therefore improving that systemization. So it's a bit like, I think they describe it as painting. Is it painting the fourth bridge? By the time you finish, you got to start again. You once you systemize the business, typically you've got to go back and just say, is this still fit for purpose for the size of business we are, the number of people, the number of clients, etc. And I was thinking, obviously you're a global business. You mentioned the sort of different countries and sectors. How do you deal with the fact that you've got customers in different time zones across the world?
Yeah, so we have, so for example, for the US and South America, so we do have somebody who's located in South America that's
Got you.
Spanish speaking, so she will assist there. We
Brilliant.
also have a member of the team now that works, his working hours are slightly later, so he starts later and finishes later in the day, and he's purely US focused. And then again for Asia, or yeah, more so Asia and similar areas, we have people located in the continent. We now also have a collaboration with a fresh produce search firm in Australia.
Right?
we will work with. So let's say our client in the US is looking to hire in Australia, then we have someone in that time zone that can help.
Yeah.
Because whilst we can manage the US relationship,
Yeah.
trying to interview candidates in Australia with the time zone is going to be quite tricky. So
No,
yes.
makes perfect sense. And how do you manage the communication, the meetings and stuff? Because I guess at some point you need to communicate with all these people directly. Is that how does that work for you?
Yeah, so that is it does mean some late night meetings or morning meetings.
Yeah.
I actually have one today, which is at 9 p.m. UK time with my client in the US who is in the East Coast, and
Yep.
then John in Australia who, yeah, so it'll be 6 a.m. tomorrow for him.
Goodness.
Essentially.
Goodness. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's the odd sort of late night meeting, but yeah, it's all worth it. I really enjoy it, but is yeah, you do have to get used to tackling the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And looking at business and the growth that you've had, what would you say are some of the biggest learnings you've had about growing a business?
Yeah, the biggest learning. So I'll say one thing I've learned about business, and this is probably I know we mentioned maybe sort of a quote, this is tied in, but I would say never assume, always ask. And
Great.
particularly because we are dealing with people, on both sides, candidates and clients, assuming that we know things is never a good thing.
Yep.
So always asking questions, making sure we fully understand the person's, their situation, their level of interest, what else they've got going on is really important. So asking lots of questions, and this is within the business as well. So again, with your team, lots of checking in, making sure they understand, their remit, what they should be doing. Lots of feedback, for example. So making sure that you are, yeah, asking lots of questions and never assuming.
Yeah, great. It's so easy to, isn't it? Because we that looks like something we dealt with before, so it's probably the same. It's just we all do it. And I think you're aware we're a business coaching organisation. I'm keen to know who the best coaches you've worked with, whether that's business, sport, life in general. Who's had the biggest impact on you?
Yes, I'm a big fan of coaching in terms of having coaches or utilizing coaches. So I actually have two that I work with at the moment. So one is Rebecca Shannon. So she is a leadership coach. So I work with her frequently, and she's been amazing in all areas of developing the business. It's all about
Mm.
mindset, a lot about communication. So really learning about the language we use and how
Yeah,
that can impact or have an impact on situations, on people. So really thinking about language. So she's been amazing. And then also I work with, it's more of a like an annual membership, but you get coaching as part of that. And this is for executive retained search. So it's
right.
learning the, I guess, best practices
Yeah,
for how to run a retained search, how to run an executive
brilliant.
search. And we meet, so I have the coaching, but we also meet within the membership frequently to, yeah, learn, give advice, give tips, etc.
Brilliant, brilliant. And obviously, you mentioned some favorite quote of not assuming. Do you have any books or podcasts that you watch regularly that you can recommend about business or success in general?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan actually of audiobooks, so I've got probably quite a lot. But one I've just read recently is Radical Candor by
Medical
Kim
kind of
Scott.
Kim Scott.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Kim Scott.
brilliant.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's been again amazing about just giving really honest feedback
Yes,
and how to give that feedback. And the important thing is to care deeply about
yes,
the individual that you're providing feedback to, so they understand that you are providing the feedback because you care and you want the best for them, for their well-being. So yeah, so that's been great. That's been a big learning
brilliant.
as well.
Brilliant, and the audiobook's great because I think she narrates it herself, doesn't she? And she's got
It does,
got a
yeah.
lovely. I'm guessing southern US. And one thing she says at the start, which I think is lovely, which is when she was growing up, and many of us probably have the same advice. Her mother told her, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything. And how unhelpful that phrase is when you have to sometimes give people that feedback. But as you say, if you're doing it from a position of caring deeply, then it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I think she talks about oh, sorry, I can't think of the phrase she uses now, but essentially you've got radical candor, which is giving, very honest feedback in the right way. And
Yep.
then next best option is basically, what do you call it? Is obnoxious.
Obnoxious. Oh, I guess that's great.
Thank you.
Obnoxious. Yeah, basically doing it from it. I think the point was it's better to give feedback even if you don't do it the right way. Although why wouldn't you do it the right way? But yeah, obnoxious
Obnoxious aggression, is it?
aggression, isn't it? I'm just
Yeah.
thinking, yeah,
I think
obnoxious
she's saying that
aggression.
that is basically the second best option. Like, you're better off giving feedback even in an obnoxious way. I mean, obviously that's not the first best. Like, you want to do it in the right way, but you're
Absolutely.
better off giving it than not giving it, essentially.
I think
So,
that's true. And
yeah.
I guess thinking about it, the I'm not given if we're people that care, we are going to do it from a position of care, but it can be perceived as obnoxious aggression, i.e.,
Mm,
you didn't tell me you didn't think as much about me, and that might be how the other person might feel, but it doesn't have to be how we feel, if
yeah.
that makes sense. It might be perceived as that, but if we know, there's a great phrase I got many years ago, which is standing in truth. If I know I've done it from a position of care, even if it didn't come across or you didn't perceive it that way, at least I can be confident that I did do that thing.
Mm.
And as you said, you mentioned earlier, language being really important. It can come across accidentally in the wrong way, and that's not necessarily our responsibility. I would suggest.
Yeah. And I think you've been talking a lot recently. Again, this has come into the coaching I've been doing, but going back to sort of language, and particularly as a leader, it's our responsibility to ensure that our message has landed in the right, not just the right way, but the other person understands. So
Yes,
actually, it's not their responsibility to make sure they understand us. We need to be checking that they
yes,
understand.
yeah,
And not, because how many times have you heard, oh, well, I thought we had that conversation, or, I thought that you understood. And it's like, well, no, you need to check. We need to know,
absolutely.
understand. Yes.
There's a phrase we use a lot, which is the meaning of my communication is the response I get.
Yes.
So if I didn't get what if you didn't know what I wanted you to do, rather than blame you, I can blame how I communicated that. And did I check that you understood? Because I mean I definitely find that we do a lot in our management training. It is you so many managers, including myself, the easy answer is do you know what you're doing? Right,
Yes.
you're going to do that. Do you know what you're doing? But the answer has to be, almost always has to be yes, because it's like, well, I've got to tell the boss that yes, I'm okay.
Yeah.
And they go, I have no idea what's going on. So changing that to how might you address that? What are the first couple of steps you're going to take? Those sorts of things to validate that they've got an idea is so can
Mm.
totally change that situation. But no, totally get that. And speaking of learning, what would you say you've learned about yourself throughout your journey so far, Lucy?
Yeah, I think again, probably on a similar topic that we've just covered, um I think having something I've had to learn to do, learning about myself and learn to do is give the honest feedback because particularly when it's not pleasant and maybe the other person might not take it well, it's something that is hard to do. And I think stepping into leadership and then growing a team, it can be quite difficult at times to deliver feedback, and it
Yep.
can be something that I think I previously probably used to worry about that I was doing it in the right way, whereas actually it's better just to get it done and just to deliver it.
Yes.
And yeah, doing it in the right way is important, but better just to make sure that you are delivering that. So that's something I've had to learn over time, and I would say it's not something that has always come that easy or naturally to me. I probably worry about how it's being delivered and how it's going to land more than I should. And this actually goes back as well to another book that I've read called Let Them. I don't know if you know the Let Them theory. Who's that by? That's
I'm not sure about that one. That's interesting.
yeah, it's a good one, but it's basically let them. Mel Robbins, that's it.
Oh, Mel
So
Robbins, yes. Okay,
yeah,
yeah,
again, it's not our responsibility for somebody how somebody feels or reacts. That's on them. So it's our responsibility to deliver the feedback, to,
yeah.
to do it in the right way, to make sure that they understand. But if they react, become defensive, like we can't worry about that. Like, that's on them essentially. So we need to make sure we're delivering that feedback and let them react how they want to react
Yes.
essentially. So yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Great. No, thank you. Yeah, that's really useful. Yes. I, yeah, I think it's really fascinating. So I am interested that when I asked you about what you learned about yourself, I was assuming you might come up with words like resilience and a bit of inner strength there, because starting a business as COVID was starting to spread around the world one or two young children must take quite a bit of resilience and inner strength.
Yeah, I guess it does. I think yeah, I probably do have quite a lot of resilience, and I think one thing that's the reason why I did that was genuinely a lot of just belief that it would work. Like I had no doubt
Brilliant,
that I couldn't do it. It was just like
brilliant,
I'm gonna do it no matter what. So I think that belief that it's going to work and I'm going to make it happen.
brilliant.
Yeah, and I don't know if resilience is the right word. Maybe it is, but I think yeah, I almost was. There was never a plan B. There was never ever a
Brilliant.
plan B. It was like this is the plan, and that is all it's going to be.
Brilliant.
So, yeah.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And so looking forward now, Lucia, I'm keen to know what the future looks like for you guys and what challenges you might face, if any.
Yes, the future is continue to grow. So we've seen, really good growth last year and this year. We've got plans to continue growing next year, particularly in the number of searches that we are managing, the seniority of those searches as well. So moving more into C-suite, not moving away from the mid-level because I think that there are really important roles for businesses and can be very complex. So we want to continue with those also. Future challenges. I mean, time zones are always going to be a challenge. I think we've got a good systems and the right people in place to manage those, but that's something that we will continually have to think about. Whether languages becomes a thing. I mean, at the moment we've managed well with English and Spanish across the business. We've not had the need to add anyone else with other languages, but that's something that I'm prepared to add, as and when needed. Um, yeah, and then I think it's more so like internal systems and processes, just make sure that we are yeah, growing as the business grows in terms of we've got the right SOP, we've got all our SOPs, we've got the right people in the right seats, everyone's receiving the right level of training. So I think it's more so the people in the business, like internally, where we may come up with challenges as the company grows. Is the structure still right for the size of the business, for
Yeah.
example? So that's something we'll always have to analyze and
Yes.
review.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. It was interesting. You obviously talking about C-suite and the recruitment in general. That there's a lady called Jennifer Byrne who was ex CTO at Microsoft going back a fair old way. I think she was. I think she did work with Bill Gates for a little while. Um, and she was at an event a couple of years ago, and I heard her say something which really I found fascinating especially for the business owners, myself and business owner clients I work with, because she said in the US when they recruit C-suite executives, they actively test them on their ability not to do things.
Right. Okay, interesting.
And the inference was that our job is to get other people to do things. That's
Mm.
our job, and but our mindset. And what I found is most successful business people, they get to the root of success is working really hard and getting stuff done.
Mm.
But there comes a point where we need, and I think her point was that we need to start thinking about our job now is leading, managing a great team without necessarily doing as much as we were before, because that's our job. We're here to support. And I think it's quite a difficult mindset change for many people in business to go from it's all about what I do to it's all about how I can get other people, how I can help other people achieve. Does
Mm.
that make sense to you? I mean, is
It
that how?
does, yeah. No, and it's really interesting point because I think, yeah, like you say, it's about, I mean, delegation, I think, is often a skill that has to be learned. I don't know if
Yes.
everybody just naturally has that, or maybe some people do, but I think often it's a skill that has to be learned. And I think also then with that, it's skills such as, the ability to influence, to inspire. I think emotional intelligence as well comes
Yes.
alongside leadership, and often people that and I think this is probably more recent years as well that it's been more widely talked about in terms of the having that level of emotional intelligence the ability to understand others,
Yep.
understand that everybody's different, that people do things in different ways and the reasons why. Um, yeah, so I think that is something that people have to, again, and that can be developed as well, emotional intelligence.
Absolutely. There's a good, there is good training, good research, good books on that as well. Brilliant. I'm keen to know what you'd say to anyone that was thinking of going to business right now, Lucy.
Yeah, so one thing that was said to me before I started my business, and this stuck with me, is that if it's something that is on your mind and you're thinking about it, and you go to sleep thinking about it, and you wake up thinking about it, and you're always thinking this is what I need to do, then that's when you know that that's it, that this is what you need to do.
Yeah.
I think you need to sit with it for a little bit, but as soon as it is like constantly on your mind. Like for me, it was for a long time. I couldn't stop thinking about it, and it was like there was no other options. I think once you're
Brilliant.
there, it's like you just need to do it. Yes, there's a bit of planning that needs to be there, but actually, you don't. I'd say probably it's possible to over plan and
Yeah.
overthink, and sometimes actually just going for it can be the best option.
Brilliant. And if you started again, is there anything significant that you do differently, do you think?
So I think one thing that I actually did uh, wrong in the early days was, and I've talked about this a lot recently, is I believe I positioned myself at maybe the wrong level to break into a new market. So I was going in at higher fees, I was trying to win more senior work. And essentially, what I needed to do was get a reputation first and get develop my personal brand and become well known in the space. So once I lowered my rate, and became more open to the opportunities I would work on, not being too not turning away things because they were too junior, for example. I was able to build a reputation, get myself known, and then that's when I was able to build on that. You know, I mean, my fees are much higher than they were when I first started. So
Yeah.
you can increase your fees. You don't,
Yeah.
you know, if you start lower, that's fine just to get your foot in the door, and then that can increase over time. But I think going in and before you've got the testimonials, you know, before you've got everything that you need at too high a level, that could be a blocker. So
Yeah.
maybe just thinking about that in the early days.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And I'm keen to know what's the best advice you give an 18-year-old you if you could go back all that time or not all that time, but not that time and do so.
Yeah, and I think this probably ties in a little bit to what I was saying about me overthinking giving feedback, but the advice would be not to worry about what others think about you and
Great.
do it. Yeah, because I mean, when I first started the business, you know, posting on LinkedIn, and we've got really high level of inbound traffic now from LinkedIn.
Brilliant.
But the amount of times I would watch and see how many people liked my post, and not even if not enough people liked it, it would be deleted. I would be like, oh, this is awful, delete it. So I think just trying to it doesn't matter. Like there's always going to be people out there that don't like you, don't like your
Yeah.
style, like, and that's not personal. And I think being comfortable with that means that there's also going to be loads that will love you and come
Yeah.
to you. Just like being okay with that, which is very uncomfortable for a lot of people, including myself, but just realizing that it's also okay and it's just the norm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a great phrase that I like, which is very similar to what you just said, but what other people think of me is none of my business.
Yeah.
And the real truth of this, Lucy, I think, is that they're actually thinking about what they're going to have for the tea. Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? We think, oh, they must be making it. You know, they made that comment. They just made that comment. You know, whatever. And we all think. You know, most people think about themselves, so that we're not
Mhm.
referencing other people. We're you know. But yeah, it's an interesting one. I have a fairly high level of people orientation myself, and I certainly work with lots of people, and that is one of the biggest challenges is just freeing ourselves from that burden of worrying about have I done the right thing, have I upset that person? Going back to, I guess, radical candor in some ways.
Mhm.
How do I present this? Not presenting feedback that could be perceived negative purely because we didn't want to be disliked.
Mhm.
It's quite a set of handcuffs, I think, in many ways that
Yeah.
we can free ourselves from. We could do really well.
And I think also back to the let them theory, because it's, you know, it's let
Yes,
them think what they want to think. We will never be able to control other people's thoughts ever.
absolutely.
So why worry about it? You know, you might
Absolutely.
just get on.
I
Yeah.
think, yeah, there's I think Stephen Covey's circle of control and circle of concern. I don't know if you're familiar with that idea. So,
No,
so
no.
this is what we can control,
Hmm.
and this is what we're worried about. This is our concern. The
Hmm.
bigger the gap, the more the stress. I'm worried about things I can't control. His proposition is either increase the control, do something about it, or reduce your concern to match your control, and then we're in control. It's that gap between what I'm thinking about. I can't control what other people think about me, so let's not worry about it and
Yeah.
reduce that. Just reduce your stress. But it's just you can take it as broad as worried about world destruction. Either do something about it or worry less about it because
Yeah.
the gap is the stress. That's probably a bit deep, but there we go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lucy, it's been fascinating to talk to you, and I really, applaud you for everything you've achieved, especially through the challenges that you've had. As I say, setting up a business as COVID was unknowingly spreading through the world, young children, and you got a successful business that's global, operating around the world. Amazing. So, thank you so much for your time. There's some real learnings in there too. I'd love to come back again another 6, 12 months to just see what the next stages are of the development. But for now, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. It's been great. Thank you so much for inviting me on. Yeah, it's been brilliant.
Sorry, one last thing.
Yeah.
Anyone that's watching that would like to get in touch with you or LCR, what would be the best way of communicating?
Yeah, so either on my LinkedIn, so via LinkedIn, via my LinkedIn profile, or just directly to my email. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, we'll probably drop the email into the post when we issue this, if that's okay with you,
Yeah, perfect.
so
That'd be
people
great.
can drop you a line. But for now, thank you so much.
Right, thank you very much.
Thanks.